Welcome back to Heroes of the Highlands, to our second actual play campaign on the channel, and to the second episode of this little adventure. A couple of notes just up top. We have the wonderful artwork from Jessica Bowen. You can find her at art.of.job over on Instagram, link below this video, and also below this video link to Nerdiest Maximus Studios, who does the wonderful music that you will be hearing throughout this entire podcast. Now, without further ado, we are going to jump quickly into a recap of last week's session, and then into the continuation of the adventure.
Long ago, 1,000 years ago in fact, Ranich, the king's brother, he came down here and he fought a great battle.
Enough about the past, let's talk about present, and
Okay.
a two-sentence summary of this story.
Okay, so this statue is of Ranich Kilferson, the brother of the High King of the Kilferson clan. There was a great battle here about 1,000 years ago, well, around about then, fighting the Lantricians or trolls or like a goblin, who knows. And it said that an angel gave him the sword to fight in the battle, but it didn't do very much because he died anyway. And he was buried with the sword should anyone in the valley ever need it again, but the tomb is missing and they don't know where it is. I think we should try to find it.
My money is on Erlinfall cave, about a day's walk up to the east towards the mountains. A cave behind a waterfall.
We would arrive in the middle of the night, which is a perfect time to
Go
be in a
tomb
large body
raiding!
of water.
Yeah.
Yeah, to go tomb raiding.
Do you know nothing bad ever happens in a tomb in the middle of the night?
And we are back. Now, when last we left off, you were on the road heading northeast out of Kinranich and up towards the waterfall and the cave that you believe to be behind it. Is there anything you guys want to do on the road up there? It's going to take you most of the remaining daylight hours to get up to the cave, so is there anything you want to do kind of prepping on the road?
Glow's just gonna go for a wee once over of all their weapons, just make sure that they're all sharp, that there is no any dirt or anything on them. Glow might always have a dirty, rugged appearance, but her weapons are always gleaming bright.
Absolutely, you go over your old familiar weapons, your new sword, get all your gear kind of ready for whatever might await you up in the mountains. What about Boglach? Anything you want to do on the way up there, or are you all just focused in?
I think Boglach will use Druidcraft and get a small sort of sensory effect as to the weather, mainly because we're going to water, so just to see if there's going to be a big downpour or storm.
Absolutely. As you're climbing, the land gradually getting a little bit steeper as you go up towards the foothills of these mountains, as you did once before, you conjure that small swirling orb of energy above your hand, peering into it almost like a crystal ball. You see a build of dark clouds rising in the north, coming down the valley, and you kind of get this sense, almost like the sort of cold sense of a strong wind blowing across your palm, but no sign of rain. You get the impression it's going to be a very stormy, windy night, but not necessarily raining.
We go through a forest, or is it...
As you get further up, it starts to become more forested. It's like the main body of the valley, of the glen, is quite wide open heath, but as you get closer to the hills, there are trees and thick stands of fir and pine sort of hugging the lower slopes of the mountains. You're now coming into that sort of area.
Okay, so forest is one of Zelle's favoured terrain types, so while they're walking, she'll be kind of looking around for animal tracks, what kind of travels through this forest as they're going.
Give me a survival check to just kind of look around and assess the area around you from that point of view.
14.
Glancing around, you can tell that there's a lot of animals in this area, more so in the trees than there were out on the open heath. You see deer tracks, the signs of smaller rodents, droppings from maybe some goats that have been grazing in the area. You do notice that as the day goes on and you get higher up towards the mountains, there are less and less animal tracks, as if the closer you get to the mountains, the less sort of populous the area is for animals. There isn't a radical change in the landscape around you. It's still forested, low hills, but you do notice that maybe for whatever reason, there's less life up here.
Okay, and as they're going, she'll definitely be kind of foraging for berries and things like that as well.
On that survival with the 14, I say you're able to gather almost like a ration's worth of small berries, roots and stuff that you kind of pick up from the side of the road.
Perfect. That's
In that case, as you continue on, and as night begins to fall, the tree line suddenly hits, the trees fall away behind you, and you can hear, previously muffled through the trees, now unmuffled, rolling down the mountains towards you, the sound of the waterfall, this thunderous booming of water cascading down hundreds of feet through multiple basins down to form the rushing river that flows somewhere over a little bit to the north of the road you're travelling on now. The land ahead of you is a lot more barren and sparse than it looked from even down in the low country of the centre of the glen. And you can see that the road ahead of you, it's really at this point just a kind of a narrow trail of a sort of a gravelly dirt road stretching up through low stunted brown grass on either side. This path winding up towards a ledge that juts out over the tumbling waterfall that is coming down the mountainside about 300 or 400 feet up ahead of you.
I suppose once the tree line kind of ends, they'll probably stop walking, not to go out into the open quite yet, and she's gonna kind of turn to both Gloot and Buglach and be like, should we set up camp? Or, I'm now that we're here, I'm beginning to think that exploring a waterfall in the pitch darkness probably isn't the best idea.
Yeah, but if you want to think of it like that, anyone else wanting to investigate the cave would probably be thinking the same, so surely it'd be as quietest in the middle of the night.
I don't think there's going to be anyone else up here, though. They said the only person was that archaeologist, and they went to the castle like a week ago.
Okay, I would rather just go in just now, but if this is
gonna be a lot easier to see a cave in daylight.
Just because it's easier doesn't mean it's the better way, though.
Buglach, okay. What do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it would probably be good to have some light to seek it out, I would say.
Okay. Gloot is just going to curl up on the floor, and within minutes they are fast asleep.
You're not camping or anything? You're just lying down?
Well, Zell's planning to camp.
Gloot has slept on much rougher conditions than this. Yeah, Gloot's asleep in minutes.
Absolutely. Gloot, you get down on this sort of... You're in the shadow of the tree line here. And you're able to just kind of throw yourself down on like the mossy bank at the side of the road, and you're out for the count. The rest of you can, if you want to set up a slightly more conventional camp, perhaps gather together some firewood.
Yeah, Zell will start gathering firewood and trying to put a fire together.
If you're doing that, can you just give me another survival check?
Of course.
Can I be helping Zell?
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, well then, add advantage.
Oh,
see that Zell is struggling.
21.
At first, you're kind of casting around, you're not seeing any firewood in the quickly gathering gloom, but then Buglach kind of like comes alongside you, points out a particular tree over in the distance. It seems to be, perhaps it was struck by lightning at some point. It seems to be entirely kind of like dry, dead wood. And going towards that, you find underneath it a plentiful supply of broken branches and kindling. You gather that together, and before long, a few feet away from your completely sleeping companion, you have a crackling fire.
Zell will sit down and pass around the berries and roots and rations that she's gathered so that they can munch at the fire. And in a lull, she's going to say, so this might be a difficult topic of conversation, but I've kind of picked up maybe that you're pretty interested in this sword, or a sword, while we've been travelling together.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of forgot until I was at Mystic Maggie's this morning that it was a closely guarded secret. I was on this quest, but I feel like we're close enough companions. Yeah, I've got an interest in the sword. Why do you?
I do, yeah. Well, yeah, but it's
For
probably
what
more for a
reason?
personal reason. So
Okay.
she's gonna idly shuffle some stone, some of the kind of like moss around with her foot.
I would say that Buglach is not usually judgmental, but at hearing you say, "Oh, it's more of a personal reason," there's like a sort of a look goes over Boglask's face, and like his tone maybe slightly shifts. And he's like, "Oh, a personal reason. Mine is for fan reasons. Is it? I don't want to say greed. Is it
No,
money?
no, it's neither. It's not for greed.
What is it then? Is it ancestral? Or you? I mean, we've just come from a place where everybody comes from Rannoch. Do you descend from Clan? Well, I guess we all descend from Clan Kilferson.
I don't know. I don't know
So-
where I come from.
So why do you want this sword?
Just
Because
gonna,
there's tons
like-
of great artifacts out there you could.
Well, this
lay
is true.
hands
It's
on.
not. It's not really the sword. It's not really
Oh,
the sword.
fine.
It's just that I'd kind of. It's just. It's personal, and we do know
Keep
each other.
saying
We're getting
that.
to know each other. We're getting to know each other. She's gonna look really nervous, and she's not gonna be looking Boglak in the eye, and she's gonna be like, "This is really hard because I'm not really used to having friends, but I really want to find something important that belonged to the Culfane family. It doesn't need to be the sword.
The Kilferson family, just for their
The Culparson family. I'm just getting the idea that we
I was
could
going
maybe
to say
help-
you even got the name wrong, so maybe the sword. No, I only
maybe
just
she's
said.
not that interested. I think maybe we could help each other.
Yeah, I didn't come out in this quest under any notion that there wouldn't be others trying. I mean, so many have tried to seek this sword. I'm under no illusion that I wasn't going to come across people who would. It'll be tricky. I have to say, as I stand now, while I value you as a companion, that sword in my eyes means a lot more to my clan than personal.
I completely understand. I'm just thinking, since we're both seeking similar things, shall we say, because it doesn't need to be the sword for me. Maybe we could just help each other.
I'm happy to help you. As you might know, my clan can be quite shut in and unforgiving to change. And I feel like the way that I act within my clan and being somewhat of an outsider in my thinking, I think if I can achieve such a great achievement, maybe it will show that my way of thinking is okay, you know?
Yeah.
And more people will feel they want to stand up. So while I want to return it to my clan, I understand that it's personal as well. You can see that as like Boglass clocked that like you are a friend of his and that there's now this thing in between. You can see that he starts getting very nervous and joking a lot more, and kind of avoiding
lighten
going
the atmosphere.
any further. Yeah, and not, I think in a way, in a caring way, but also in a typical Boglath, trademark Boglath, like just avoiding having to question what's going to happen next. I think Boglath will just go, look, we both want to find this sword, so let's find it, and then we'll work out who has more of a claim to it. That makes sense? I think that's fair.
I think that's perfectly fair. I think since we're both kind of looking for similar things, it would be stupid to not help each other.
And I'm not going to push you on the subject, but it would be interesting to know at some point when you're ready why the sword is so personal to you. Because, like I say, for my clan, I guess it is just an artifact. But I won't push you. I know that things are tense. In the same way you've not pushed me on my personal life, although I have certainly pushed on to you and Glut at times.
We all have, personal lives and things that have happened to us. Obviously, I told you about my mum and stuff. So, and as we travel together, I'm sure more things will come out. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, I've never really had friends either. I guess my wife was my friend, and her sister, of course, was a friend. Yeah, I guess I've not really had the chance to share I didn't talk to anybody about the issues I was having with my wife, and like I say, like I even laugh every time I say it, but that elder who died so suddenly, was horrible. And it's nice to be able to share that in the company of friends and feel respected.
It must have been really hard. I mean, I know what it's like to lose somebody really suddenly that you respected. As I said, my mum passed very suddenly, and it is hard. You never really get over that.
Yeah, grief never really goes, I guess.
Time is the greatest healer, but yeah, it's sad when you think about things like you're never going to hear their voice again.
Wind kind of like as you're saying that, rises around you. The sort of trees sort of shake overhead, and you realise that it was kind of dusk when you guys sat down. And as you've been talking, you sort of look up and you realise it's completely like dark around you now. The only light just emanating from the fire. There are no stars overhead. It's a cloudy, dense, cloudy night, and there's just this kind of like the shaking of the trees overhead, and this little circle of firelight. It could be the only light in the world looking out into that darkness. On either side, you can just hear this gentle snoring coming from the little bundle next to you.
We should probably call it a night before getting up to check out this cave tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some shot eye. Just as Boglak's about, like, just as maybe you're drifting off to sleep and Boglak is, Boglak goes, "Oh, I completely forgot. The weather is going to be quite stormy, but no rain." And just go to sleep.
Zell's gonna be awake all night.
Zell, as you're kind of lying there, like waiting through the long dark night, and as the embers glow ever dimmer around the fire, you just hear distantly the rumble of thunder somewhere far up the glen as the storm begins to drive over the mountains. But in time, with better or worse sleep, you get through the night, the sun begins to rise. It's one of those days when you almost wonder if the sun is still there, or if it's just a kind of glimmer of light from the day before. The low grey clouds are moving quickly, clinging to the mountaintops and kind of like tearing apart, swarming overhead. The dim grey light seeping down to where you are. It's a much worse day than it was yesterday. Yesterday felt like the last day of summer. This feels like the first day of autumn. There's this real kind of bite to the air. That roar still up ahead, and in daylight you can see, although the upper levels of the mountain are cloaked in fog and cloud, you can see very clearly this cascade of water running down the side of the mountain, crashing into a pool about 300-400 feet up the road from where you are, and then kind of tumbling off down to the north.
Alright, well, Glow's gonna wake up, just like, a big stretch, because I've been lying on, like, stone. You actually hear multiple of their vertebrae just, like, popping as they get a big flex at their back. I'm gonna reach into their bag, rip out a wee hunk of bread, probably still a little few blood splatters on it from multiple of Glut's bear trap related injuries, and start munching it. I'll wake up Zell and Boglak, be like, alright guys, come on, you know, if I was allowed to search it last night, you're not allowed to sleep in, up you get, come on.
Zell's gonna kind of grumble a little bit and then slowly get together.
Yeah, Glow's gonna do that really mean thing where they just like tear your blankets off you. Be like, come on, up, let's go, we've got a magic sword to get.
Zell's gonna be like, I feel like I only just went to sleep.
Oh, well, you can sleep soundly once you know we have this magic sword.
Great, okay.
Come on, I've only got one of them. I want a second one before the day's done.
Yeah, Boglak will get up and go.
You rise, gather together your things, stamp out any last sort of glowing orange embers in the fire, and under these dark, low skies, continue the final trek up the slightly gloomy slope towards the waterfall. It's probably around about 7 in the morning, maybe 7:30, as you get up to the ledge jutting out over this pool. You can look down into deep waters frothing white with foam before the water pours over the lip of the basin and crashes down into a lower level a bit further down, deeper into the forested lands below. The water cascading down from above, and visible through the shifting sheet of the water, a dark void on the other side.
I walk into the void.
Just stride
Straight in.
through the sheet of the waterfall. Just kind of, there's a small jump you have to make from the ledge through, and without flinching, you go straight to this freezing cold sheet of water and find yourself in a gloomy, dim chamber on the other side. The very pale daylight just filtering through the water behind you. Boglak and Zell, what do you want to do?
Zell's gonna be looking to see, like, is, you know, where it kind of meets, is there a way that you can go behind the waterfall, like, you know, like if there's any kind of small narrow bit where, you know, where she could, instead of just going right through.
There isn't really an easy access route to it, kind of like going round at a ledge or anything. Basically your option is to jump through. It's a very doable jump. It's a very narrow jump, well within. You wouldn't even have to roll for it, but you do have to kind of take that slightly, nerve-wracking step into the void and then through the water.
Okay, Zelle's gonna kind of brace herself and then follow Luke.
Out into the void, through this freezing sheet of water, and then into the other side, into the gloom beyond. Boglach, you stand alone on this ledge, the wind whipping around you, tugging at your cloak, the water rolling up in cold spray against your face.
I will follow my companions.
Deep breath through the waterfall and into the cave on the other side. You find yourself in, kind of as your eyes adjust to this space, a cavernous, dark hallway. At first, you're expecting a natural cave, but looking around you realise this cave has been sculpted. It's been reinforced. The walls seem to have been shorn up with bricks, perhaps cut from the rock walls themselves and then refitted to create regular straight faces on either side. There are 4 pillars in the space, or rather there were 4. One seems to have fallen away at some point in the distant past and now lies in a kind of pile of debris in one corner. Looking up, that part of the ceiling still seems to be relatively intact, but you can see that it is sagging down a little bit at that side. There is dense green ivy and lichen swarming over the ruins and over the remaining pillars that still stand upright. And at the far end of this darkened hall is a statue, an enormous hulking statue, seemingly built into the wall itself, perhaps hewn from the rock before the bricks were set in around it. It seems to depict some kind of enormous hulking warrior wearing heavy armour and sort of clenched fists over its chest like that.
How tall is the statue?
The statue rises to about almost 10 feet.
I want to climb atop the statue.
You just like dart forward and start towards the statue. As you're going, can you give me a perception check?
I feel like Gloat's hyper-focused on the statue, so if this is not to do with the statue, Gloat wouldn't notice it.
No problem. You just dart forward. You don't notice anything around you, and you go scrabbling up onto the top of the statue. Are you trying to do anything up there?
I just want to get a better vantage point of the cavern from like the height advantage of the statue. Like, is there any like wee pastures that I like see from atop the statue or anything like that? Any other notes of interest?
You don't see anything too noticeable on the statue itself. As you're getting up to the top, just give me an investigation check as you start to kind of look around.
That is a 9.
It's gloomy and dark in here. The statue is it's made of stone. You can tell on your 9. As you're up there, what are Boglach and Zell doing?
Zell will definitely be kind of like looking at the walls and looking at the pillars to see if there's any discernible kind of features on them that she might pick up. You know, with the ivy and the lichen, probably not, but she's definitely going to be kind of on high alert, trying to like work out kind of what's going on. She'll be looking at the statue as well, but mostly because Gloot climbed up it, and then she's probably going to step further down, but more tentatively.
You notice as you're walking into the cave, Gloot walked right by this, but it is very visible. There is a skeleton lying to one side of the cave next to one of the pillars, kind of crumpled up bones in a sort of slightly scattered heap on the ground.
She'll probably stop and look down at it. Is there any kind of like recognizable like what kind of clothing, or is that all gone?
Yeah, give me an investigation check.
Oh, 24.
You glance over this body, still wearing kind of tattered, it looks like the remnants of very old rusted armour, which is gradually, there's a lot of damp in the air here because of the waterfall, so the armour's rusted away quite dramatically, but there's still the remnants of old plate, tattered padded armour that was worn underneath it still hanging around. You can tell this was probably some kind of warrior mercenary figure, someone relatively well armed. You find the broken fragment of what appears to be the handle of their sword, the metal blade having rusted away, lying quite nearby, and you can tell on that investigation their skull has just been caved in. It's like the back of it is just pulverized.
Okay.
Boglach, what do you want to do right now?
I think if Zell is checking over the skeleton and Glut's ahead, I'll probably go ahead to where Glut is to see what's ahead. Not that I don't trust Glut. I know that Glut can get quite fixated, and I think that statue is prime Glut fixation.
I'm sure
so
the statue's holding
stuff.
something. I want to try and pry open the stone fingers. This statue's holding something.
Absolutely. As you get down towards that, Boglach, can you just give me an investigation check as you start scanning around the room?
11.
11. You're not really picking up that much, again, in this dim backspace. On an 11, the one thing you do notice is that the wall behind the statue, that the statue seems to be sort of set against or set into, seems to be different from the brickwork around it. It looks more like a single slab of stone, and it does seem to have like some like carved runes or writing on it, but in the dim light you can't really make out what any of that is. You can just see that it's a different texture and a different structure from the wall around it.
I was just going to say, if there's dim light, could I go over to Zell and cast flame arrows on their quiver? And then
Absolutely.
take out one of the arrows as like a torch sort of thing. Would that work?
Yeah.
It does fire damage, but I don't know if it lights up. It's kind of your...
I think we could say that if you're not using it to deal fire damage, you could use it as a rudimentary torch. It wouldn't burn that well, it wouldn't cast a huge amount of light, but it would give you a little bit of an advantage if you're trying to make a further investigation check.
I think if I look at these runes and I can't quite make them out in the dim light, I think I would just turn over and maybe not even disturbing Zell, just like touch the quiver and then like draw a flame arrow and go back to kind of have a closer look.
In that case, give me another investigation check. You've essentially given yourself the help action by getting that on.
13.
13. With that, not much more, although you can now tell going back that there is almost the entire slab directly behind the statue is covered in runes. What languages do you speak?
A very good question. I speak Druidic, and I'm guessing Common, and that's it.
You don't recognise this language, but it's almost sort of Rosetta Stone style. The whole slab is just covered in this. At that moment, Glut, you're sliding down and trying to like unprise the statue's hands.
Yeah.
You are kind of like clinging on at the front, like holding onto the statue's hands, like pulling. This is like a solid mass of rock. It does not seem to be moving. As you're doing that, there is a glow in the darkness, almost just above your eye line, as the two sort of deep-pitted eye sockets of the statue flicker with this very pale blue light that's almost like two small candles have just ignited within it, and you feel, perhaps in response to your careful pulling, it must be that the hands begin to unloosen. For one moment, you might even think that you've managed to pull the hands free, and then the hands just swing apart, hurling you back onto the floor. Can you give me a dexterity saving throw?
That is still a 19.
Beautiful. You fly back and land on your feet carefully. You take only 4 points of bludgeoning damage from the impact of that landing. Not really a light graze, if nothing else, as this statue, suddenly coming to life, begins to tramp forward into the space, its eyes fixed upon Glut. Boglach and Zell just look up to see this lumbering statue now moving forward. You can see that same blue light flickering around the joints of the statue. Although the statue is made up of multiple segmented pieces, they seem to be given flexibility, moving almost bound together with this pale blue light that suddenly ignited within them. And with that, can you roll initiative? Top of the round is Glut. As we enter combat, Glut, you're top of the round. This huge statue is trundling towards you. What do you want to do?
Glut is confused by this giant statue, but also knows it's been thrown by it, so I am going to unsheath my, the compelling argument, which is the name of my new greatsword, and I am going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to move this, like, eastern direction towards the, giant golem thing. I'm going to try and attack it twice with my... actually, my first attack's going to be a reckless attack, and then I'll try attack again. So that first one is a 26 to hit.
Absolutely hits.
And my second attack is a 18 to hit.
Both of those hit.
So because I've had two successful attacks, just to make things easier, I'll also use my bonus action to use my pommel strike on my sword. So that last attack is a 15.
Absolutely. And what are the
hit.
damage types? Let me just check the 15. The
So the
15,
15's the last one.
15 will miss.
15 less. Okay, so that is 2d10 plus 10. 4, 5, 9. Oh, that is 19 slashing damage.
And so 19 slashing damage, that is going to be reduced down to half. You bring your blade slashing in. It doesn't seem to do that much damage against this robust, solid stone structure, but you deal 10 points of damage.
Okay, and I end my turn.
Next up is the huge hulking creature in front of you. It is going to raise its fists up overhead and bring them crashing down to attack. The first one is going to be a 12 to hit.
Oh, that will miss. Oh no, it has advantage because I use reckless attack. It has advantage on all its attacks against me.
In that case, it's going to be a 17 to hit.
That will hit my AC is 14.
In that case, that is going to be 18 points of bludgeoning damage as this massive stone fist crunches down into you. It's going to make a second attack, and that will be a 24 to hit.
That will also hit.
That is going to be 14 points of bludgeoning damage on the second blow as this fist crushes down.
32 points of damage.
That is correct. You see your the other two of you are just like trying to come to terms with the situation, and you just see this hulking, gigantic stone monolith beating down on this small figure, kind of like down on the ground in front of it. Next up is Zell.
I was completely stunned, but I mean, first instinct is just to grab an arrow. She's not at this point. She's not really sure what good this is gonna do. But she does fire one of the fire arrows that Boglach has so kindly done for her.
It's probably a double take for a moment where you're like, my arrows are on fire, and then you're like,
yeah, she's like,
Boglach.
When did this happen? Sorry, when did this happen? But she's just rolling with the punches. So she's gonna. Ugh, it's only a 9 to hit though, so that one's gonna miss. So she'll just do the same thing again. Well, she's just moving as quick as she can. Send 2 arrows out, which is a 23 to hit.
Absolutely hits.
And see with the damage for that, like because it's on fire, does that add anything?
In this case, it does not.
Okay, so that's 8 damage, which I assume might be halved.
That is reduced down to 4. It appears that, as far as you can tell, you've seen slashing and piercing damage seem to be not particularly effective against it, as that arrow pings off, kind of clattering to the side, the flame winking out. This huge, sort of stony, craggy face looks up towards you, and those eyes kind of flicker, narrowing in towards you. Zell, anything else you want to do in your turn?
She's probably just going to yell to Boglach, "Try the lightning!" Try the lightning!
You end your turn there, and we go over to Boglach. You hear that voice echoing around the chamber.
I'm not going to do the lightning. I'm going to be a bit smarter because that thing looks terrifying, and I think Boglach, like, you know, classic Boglach sweat comes out as they see your companion getting beat down. So I am going to healing word Glute to start with, which is a bonus action. I'll cast that at 4th level because I feel like Glute's taken quite a bit of damage, not been able to rage yet. 17, so Boglach will like reach out and like grab Glute's attention, and like usually when casting healing word, Boglach will like say some very soothing words or like sort of affirmations. Instead, Boglach's going to try and get your Glute to stare at them and just say like, "You're letting this thing beat you down? So weak. You're being so weak right now."
A goading attack.
Like in all of this.
I feel like some of your pain might go away as you sort of
Yeah,
rush of
that whole like spite is an excellent motivator, you know.
Like 17 points of pure adrenaline. And then what I'd quite like to do. So that's a bonus action. Could I throw something as an action, or is that
if you
a certain weapon?
What did you want to throw?
I basically just want to pick up a loose bit of stone work or something around me and just lob it at this big stone creature?
Absolutely, you just reach down, there's small pieces of debris scattered around this whole place. You grab like a brick off the ground and just hurl that. Just make a ranged attack using your dexterity.
9.
That will miss. That stone flies. It actually does connect. It like bounces off, but it's so you kind of swing towards him, and his hand just comes up and boom, smashes it aside. You hear it kind of pulverize against the wall.
Do the eyes turn towards me at all?
At this point, he's kind of scanning between the three of you, trying to assess who is going to deal the most damage here. And at this point, it's like it doesn't seem to have enough information yet. It's just kind of focusing between you as if it's like assessing at this point. This thing, you get this sense of almost like a sort of an automated kind of intelligence sizing you guys up at the moment. Anything else you want to do on your turn? Right now, you're about sort of 10 to 15 feet away from this thing.
I think I'll back away towards the northwest pillar, so just past the skeleton.
Beautiful.
I'll just back away, shadow sort of at the top of this that we're in, and yeah, I think Boglach got the wrong idea about how this creature was operating, so he's going to move on to the next plan.
You drop back into the shadows of the northwestern pillar, past the sort of crushed skull of the skeletal warrior who came before you. Back to the top of the round, we have Glut.
So after being absolutely pummeled, and after hearing Boglach's you're so weak, why are you letting this thing beat you up? I'm just like, oh, fucking show you, Boglach. And I'm gonna rage. So when I rage, I can move half my movement speed. So with that on my normal speed, that is 50 feet of movement I get this turn. Can I try and use that 50 feet to try and climb up this creature?
Yeah, you can just, because it would be like essentially half of your movement to climb to for your moving speed if you're climbing up. So you can just go out to the top.
So I want to try and clamber up to a position where I'm almost wrapping my legs around its head, but I'm facing Zell and Boglach, so my back's to the wall. And from there with both hands, Glut remembers when they used to take up odd jobs to make a living that they used to be a miner for a brief period, and the best way to get stone was to pick at it. So with the compelling argument, I want to get my palm and try and dig it repeatedly into the top of this thing's head. So I'm going to go for 2 pommel strikes, and I'll make my first one again a reckless attack.
Mm-hmm.
So that first one is a 17 to hit.
Meets it, beats it, you hit.
Alright, second one is a 22.
Hits.
And then because I landed my first 2, I can bonus action a third pommel strike, and that is another 22.
Hell yeah.
So because I'm going for my pommel strike, that's d6s, so that is 10... 12 plus 21 is 33 bludgeoning damage.
Beautiful. You rain down these bludgeoning blows into the back of the head, and it does full damage as you kind of chip into it, almost like you're just hammering into this stone.
And I'm just going to shout them this, I'm just going to be bonk, bonk, bonk.
As you...
And as trying to communicate to their team to hit it with something blunt by just repeatedly screaming bonk.
You are just on top of this thing shouting bonk. As you're doing that, next up is the huge moving statue. It is going to carry you with it as it storms forward across the hall towards the nearest person to it, aside from the small creature attacking it from behind. It's going to storm towards you, Zell. This thing charging west across the hall between the pillars, Glut clinging on for dear life behind, just bringing this, slamming the pommel down into the back of the creature's head. It looms over you, and Zell, you get a sense of just how big this thing is. You've never seen anything like this huge automated stone guardian, as it raises its fist towards you to attack. That will be an 18 to hit.
That will hit.
That is going to be 15 points of bludgeoning damage from its first fist. Makes contact. You feel just the wind driven out of your lungs. Feel bruising already spreading under these enormous titanic fists. The second fist comes down, and that is going to be a 27 to hit.
That will hit.
That is going to be 19 points of bludgeoning damage. From the second fist, as that crashes into you, almost driving you to the ground. You are still standing, but it's like you are reeling as this thing beats down on you. the sort of roar of the waterfall becomes very faint behind you, and you just have this ringing in your ears. Next up is Zell.
Zell's not doing very well. I think at this point, you know, she's probably gonna just cast Cure Wounds on herself. So she's had like everything taken out of her. This has all happened so fast. And she's maybe can just like, with the little strength that she has, like put her hand to her chest and cast Cure Wounds on herself.
Beautiful.
For 13 healing.
Are you going to stay within the zone of this thing?
She's probably going to try to scrabble backwards now she's feeling a little bit better.
Bearing in mind that it will take an attack of opportunity against you.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. No, let's say she's too weak at this point. She's still on the ground. She'll stay where she is.
Next up, Boglak, you have just seen this thing storm west across the hallway. You are a little bit to kind of like the northwest of it, about 15 feet away in the shadows behind one of the pillars. You just watched it rain its fist down like an avalanche on top of Zell. What do you want to do?
Is there a particular creature I could transform into which has like a charging speed? Like, I don't know.
You could transform
like
perhaps into a
something?
stag. Yeah, like I say we use the stag, the elk stats for like a Highland stag.
What a haggis?
I think a haggis, I feel like Boglak, as much as Boglak wants to turn into a haggis and deal with this, I feel like instead, like, Boglak, like, seeing Zell just fall very suddenly to the ground, is just going to, like, start running forward himself and then, like, going to transform into this stag and just, like, ram into this creature, and just like the antlers like bits chipping off and breaking, and it's just like tries its best to like be like, I'm here, deal with me.
Absolutely. Do you want to roll to hit?
Am I at least 20 feet away from it?
You're not at the moment, but you could kind of like drop back a little bit further and then run from there. Run from kind of behind the pillar.
That's quite strange, but I feel like Boglak does like kind of do that thing where you like back up before you charge forward, just to get that like 20 feet straight line towards it. And yeah, I'm going to do a ram attack, which is going to be +5 to hit.
From the shadows behind you, Zell, you just hear the thunder of hooves as this enormous red stag comes launching from the shadows.
Only going to be a 14.
That will be a little bit under there. You kind of crash up next to it, and you're kind of like right, next to this thing, potentially drawing its attention away from Zell as it snaps around towards you, but at the moment not doing damage.
Just like, I imagine I'm trying to position myself where, like, if it's trying to get any sort of hit more on Zell, I'm trying to be in the way, like just almost like scooping his arms out of the way.
Excellent. Then to the top of the round we have Gloot.
So I want to try something crazy, but Malcolm, let me know if this would work. So you gave me this super cool magic sword which has an ability that if I shove it into the ground, I can create a shockwave that hits everything kind of within 10 feet of me. See, if I climb onto this thing's chest, could I use the shockwave by plunging the sword into the creature's chest to shoot it backwards?
You want to go swing around to the front and hit it in the chest to create the shockwave that will potentially drive it back towards the broken pillar.
I actually want to drive it towards the northeastern pillar, like the one that's actually still standing.
Absolutely. You can 100% do that. You can kind of just use basically all your movement to maneuver yourself round to the front of the statue.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Shadow of the Colossus style, just like clambering over this creature.
In that case, you pull yourself around, you bring your sword back, and this ability essentially works on any kind of surface, and this is a big stony surface in front of you. You bring that crashing in.
So I need to make an athletics check for this to succeed with a DC of 15, but that is a 27. This creature will get knocked back, but if it fails a DC 13 dex save, it'll also get knocked prone. So the knockback is guaranteed, but it might fall prone if it fails that save.
It rolled an 8.
Yes. So on the map here, I kind of want to be on like the north southwest, like kind of like here on like its chest equivalent, like there.
Gotcha.
And then I want to shove that sword into its chest to shoot that massive shockwave out.
You bring your sword crashing down against the chest. All of you see this the sort of deep blue blade of the claymore that Glut wields strike against the chest of this thing. A flash of almost like blue lightning energy pulses out, and as that blast hits, you see it propels this creature backwards. The Guardian slams into the pillar. You hear this rumbling sound as the pillar begins to dissolve behind the Guardian, and the Guardian falls prone in the center of this crumbled, shattered pillar, with Glut clinging on the front as the creature goes back down on its back. At that moment, you see, just like under the broken pillar on the southeastern side, the wall, the ceiling above sags down. The sort of structural weakness being introduced by the fact that the pillar is now gone as this Guardian lies on its back. Anything else you want to do, Glut?
Oh, I am my turn there.
Beautiful. Next up is the huge stone Guardian. It is going to begin by using its movement to stand back up. It's going to scramble up to its feet, and then it is going to take a strike at you, Glut, as you cling onto it. That is a crit.
It definitely has then.
It does. You're raging though, right?
I am raging now, yes.
Okay. That is 31 points of bludgeoning. So reduced down 15 points of bludgeoning damage as this fist slams into the side. You cling on as this thing is standing there, kind of having risen among the debris, ruins kind of like spilling off of it down onto the ground, pieces of lichen and ivy clinging onto it. It seems to have taken quite a bad hit from that pillar. You're not exactly sure how much damage it's done, but it seems to have, the whole kind of like back portion of it took bludgeoning damage as it slammed into the pillar, and you can see kind of like cracks and fissures spreading up across its shoulders. It is going to take a second attack against you, Glut, and that will be a 19 to hit.
Will also hit.
That will be 19 points reduced down, so that will be 10 points of bludgeoning damage as that second fist slams into you. Ending its turn there, over to Zell.
Okay, so now that it's kind of not looming over her, Zell's gonna have taken a moment to like cough up some blood after it attacked her. And at this point is kind of probably just like wondering what on earth she's gonna do. Probably gonna look around since the arrows did like next to nothing. She's probably gonna look around to see if there's any kind of big rocks she could throw at it. Would there be anything nearby?
There's a lot of debris lying around on the ground, nothing particularly big. There's like small bricks and stuff you could throw at it. Most of like the rubble is just lying kind of around it where the pillar came down.
I wonder if she's going to maybe try... I don't know if it'll work really, but if she casted fog cloud to try and stop it from seeing where everybody is. Yeah, she's going to do that. She'll kind of like, put her arm up and cast fog cloud to create a big cloud.
Absolutely.
In the area to try and kind of obscure its vision as much as possible.
That fog wreaths around both Glut and the Guardian as the Guardian's eyes kind of like glow for a moment like blue stars in the fog and then vanish in the vapour. Anything else you want to do, Zell?
She's probably going to try and just take this opportunity to move back a little bit away from it.
Kind of drop back towards the entranceway.
Yeah.
This thing, the last you saw that as the mist closed around it, it is looking pretty beat up. It can deal a lot of damage, but that blow into the pillar seems to have kind of given it some of the structural damage, much like the building around it. At that moment, we go over to Glut. Pardon me, not Glut, Boglash.
I was going to say...
Am I able to still target this stone?
You can shoot it at
Or
disadvantage.
is it, if I were to charge at it in stag form, would that...
Likewise, it's in.
Hit it?
You can't see it through the fog, so you can hear it and you can charge it, but you can't see it.
Right, got you. In that case, yeah, I think I'm just going to... Knowing that this thing looks more beat up than maybe I initially thought, I'm just going to try and charge towards it.
You barrel into the fog.
Would I also be able to sort of do a turn and run to get that 20-foot straight line? Possibly?
Absolutely. You gallop back a little bit, and then like an arrow.
So the first one's going to be... Oh, that's a crit. That'll be a disadvantage.
Oh.
Oh, it's another crit! I rolled 2d20.
Let's go!
What's the damage? That's crazy.
I'll take a
Let's
screenshot.
Love it when that
Oh,
happens.
No, I believe you. Hit us with the damage.
I feel like there needs to be receipts.
Yeah, visual
That's
proof.
He's probably not going to do a ton of damage, but I think Boglak is just like, it's all I can do right now. And just spurred on by wanting to be as helpful to the companions as possible, just go straight for it.
You plunge into the fog, and even amid as your eyesight kind of goes amid that magical vapor, just this looming shadow emerges in front of you, and your horns slam into it.
So 16 damage in total, and it does say if the target is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 13 strength saving throw or be knocked prone, but I don't know whether size would come into that.
It does succeed that roll. It kind of like staggers slightly, manages to right itself, but that still did full damage as you slam into it. Is there anything else you want to do there?
Nope.
In that case, ending your turn, we go back to the top of the round with Glut. You're still clinging onto the front of this thing.
Yeah, because I'm clinging onto it, it's a huge creature, would I have disadvantage?
I would say you wouldn't. It doesn't have disadvantage against you, and likewise.
Okay, yeah, just because obviously I'm clinging onto it. So,
you know where it is.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 3 pommel strikes. First one's going to be a reckless attack, which is... Oh! One was a 1, one was a 19. So that is a... Well, that'll hit anyway. Second pommel strike is a... that's only a 12 to hit. So my first one deals 6 plus 7 is 13 bludgeoning damage.
Beautiful.
And with that, I'll end my turn.
You crunch in there, like pummeling the pommel in. The bless you.
Oh.
The Guardian is going to lunge up at... in fact, the Guardian is going to lunge down at the stag that is kind of like materialized below it. It's going to hit the stag and it's going to hit Glut. The stag, it will be at disadvantage. Glut will be regular.
It will be advantage because I have reckless attacks.
So it misses. That huge hand comes down next to Boglak, slams into the ground, does not hit, rises up back into the mist. Going to attack against Glut at advantage. That will be a 19 to hit.
Will definitely hit.
That is going to be 18 bludgeoning down to 9. You take 9 points of bludgeoning damage as that fist, again, it's almost like beating its chest where you cling onto it, ending its turn over to Zell.
I think Zell's probably just gonna hide.
Which pillar are you hiding behind?
The northwest pillar. She's probably just gonna stay there. Everything's happening in the fog. She can't really see what's going on.
You get full cover as you dip down behind that pillar, out of sight, as this sort of roiling mass of fog and limbs and antlers swarms over on the northeastern side of the building. At that moment, we go over to Boglak. You are down at the base of this thing.
I won't charge or anything, won't risk getting hit. I'm just gonna... Do you know what? I'll switch up. I'm gonna and get it with my hoofs.
Again, a disadvantage, I'm afraid, since you can't see it very clearly.
First one's going to be 14, and second one's going to be 10.
You rear up, kind of like striking at it, but can't quite find purchase. Your hooves kind of like slide off the damp side of this huge statue, clattering to the ground. Anything else you want to do?
Am I able to get, since I'm kind of in the midst of this scene, am I able to get a look at Glut and see how Glut's doing currently?
I'd say you can't really see Glut's in the fog.
Can't see. Fair enough, right? In that case, all good.
In that case, we go to Glut.
Alright, so just continuously just screaming all the while. Glut is once again just gonna keep going for those pommel strikes, just literally try to dig to the very center of this creature. So reckless attack again for that first one, and hey, that is a crit.
Hell yeah.
First one. Second attack is a 24, so because I've hit 2 of my attack, I can bonus action pommel strike, and unfortunately the last one's a 13, so that is still 3d6 plus 14. So 2, 4, 6. 9 plus 14 is 23. Yeah, 23 bludgeoning damage.
How do you do that?
Oh, hell yeah. Okay, so
Amazing.
I want to think that every strike they're doing, they're kind of like shoving the pommel into the creature and climbing up, and shoving it in and climbing up, and then as they get to the head, for the second last hit, they shove it into the creature's head, so the sword is sticking straight up, standing on the creature's collarbone. She jumps up and like stomps both of the hilt handles to like drive the sword straight into the creature's head, like a pure like lobotomy spike. And because like, you know those rock videos where they hit it at the right angle and it splits in half? I feel like she just gets that with this. She just gets that perfect point on the top of this creature's head and just splits it.
You split this thing down the middle. You guys are looking up into this fog, and suddenly you hear this rumbling crash as masonry begins to crumble onto the ground, and the two halves of this huge stone guardian crash down. As the fog begins to clear amid the ruins and the rubble, you can just see this small figure in the centre, standing atop the ruined carcass of this guardian, blade in hand. The battle is over.
Oh. Alright, guys, I am not gonna lie, that hurt. that really fucking hurt.
Looked like it hurt.
Yeah, that did. Boglak, were you a deer for a second?
I feel like Boglak comes out of the fog just in their normal form. And they're like, I think so, yeah. It gets a bit muddly with the thoughts, but yeah, I was. I charged in.
Well, that's
trying to help out.
That's really cool. But dude, couldn't you have been like a werehaggis instead?
I think werehaggises are best kept for urban adventures, and I feel like that thing was not going to be scared of no werehaggis. It was scared of you though at the end.
Don't know what urban means, but okay. So see, like the blue eyes, are they like on like the ground? Are they part of it? Because Glut was very like mesmerized by them.
They seem to have vanished. It appears that was a kind of an energy that was flowing through the creature, keeping it animated, keeping it engaged. With its death, it seems to have that sort of essence has flowed from it.
Okay. Well, in which case, I don't know about you guys, but I think if I wanted to hide a magic sword, I'd keep some sort of giant stone creature to guard it. So I think we're on the right track.
Zelle's kind of like slowly brought herself to her feet, probably ended concentration on the fog cloud, so it kind of dissipates a bit.
Yeah, Zelle, where were you? I didn't really see much when I was like, straddling that creature. You just was there another, was there another creature going on behind that pillar you were just hiding behind just there?
No, I was useless. I'm sorry, guys. It really got me.
Yeah, see,
I feel like I was just gonna say, I feel like if you weren't there with us, Glut, I don't want to speak.
I think
we'd
be dead.
But I would definitely be dead.
Oh no,
yeah,
it's fine.
I owe you my life.
No, it's fine. And I owe you my life if you guys weren't there to smooth things over with that barkeeper about that door. So we all look out for each other. I'd say that's
sort of different threat, but
yeah, I'd say, hey, still just as deadly. Alright,
and then, like, in a very almost Glut-like fashion, Zelle's gonna lean over and start vomiting.
And Glut's gonna be like, oh god, don't you start!
Perhaps we could take a quick hour to heal our wounds. I feel like if anything came up against that, it probably was killed. And if anything's behind it, then we probably want to be in the best shape.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, no complaints here. And Glut's just gonna like lie down, face like pressed into like their little like whitey puddle, and just fall asleep again.
You can see that the slab of stone directly behind this sort of huge awakened statue appears to be an arched door, a huge two-segmented door. With no apparent lock on it. You get the impression that this huge statue was essentially the lock. The stone is swarming with jagged runes overlapping in a language that I don't think any of you know.
Hang on. Well, probably not. Zelle speaks, let me see. Common, Dwarvish, Elvish, Minotaur, and Undercommon.
And Glut?
Glut. Metagaming for a moment. Glut will never admit this, but Glut can't read.
There you go.
I know this might viewer at home. You might want to sit down for this one, but Glut is completely illiterate.
In that case, none of you know what the writing says, but it swarms across this door, having been set there in a time long past. You guys want to take a short rest before
Please.
sitting?
Yeah,
Please.
I think that would be a good idea.
I'm on 9 hit points, and I was raging for most of that fight, so please can we rest?
You take a short rest.
Okay.
You're undisturbed here. There's no one else around. There's no other immediate threats in the space. For now, the ceiling does seem to be intact, although it looks pretty messed up with the 2 pillars missing. The whole kind of door end of the room, the eastern side of the room, this whole ceiling is like sagging down, and every now and then little like trails of dust and rubble tumble down onto the ground around. But you can pass an hour, find a little bit of healing, roll some hit dice.
Please.
I got 9 healing points there, so she's actually not doing too bad now, thanks to... What the heck?
I have used 6 of my 8 hit die, and that is me back from 9 HP to 36.
You've had your rest?
So
What do you want to do?
I wake up once again lying on the stone floor. You just hear gloat just like pop, 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 pop as they stretch out their vertebrae, clean their whitey off their face, and then see the plague stiffer's eating the rest of it. And I was like, plague stiffer.
Plague stiffer goes,
Plague stiffer.
Yeah, plague stiffer. Actually, I'm really sorry you couldn't eat the stone giant. I did promise you could eat like my kills, so I guess only fair you can eat the aftermath of it. So, do you guys know what that door says? Yeah?
No, I can't
really?
read it.
It says, beware magic sword inside.
Okay.
Oh.
So, yeah, that's, like, obviously that's why we're here, so that's really good, so...
All that
Zel-
writing says that.
Yeah, there's some ancient, like, so... have I told you guys I'm a scholar among my people?
You mentioned it, I think,
love
when
to
we
meet your
first met
people.
you ages ago.
Yeah. So I know some of the ancient scriptures, and yeah, they know how to waffle. Like, there's a few other bits and pieces there, but it's basically just saying beware magic sword in sight. There's also
Amazing.
there's a passage in the middle there about how the stone giant will kill anyone that tries to get it, but you know, there's no much point in reading that part now, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of past
You
that
could have
point.
said that before.
Zell's gonna get up and maybe like try to inspect the statue, like see if there's anything in the remains of it that might help them with like getting through the door.
Kind of look over the rubble. There's nothing really here. It seems to have been carved, and almost all of its sort of magic has dissipated with its destruction. It's now just this huge heap of mossy, broken stone.
I'm gonna push the door.
You go up, you put your hands against the door, and it swings inwards. There's a slight grinding sound, but almost no resistance as the door just slides out ahead of you. As you do that, Gloot, you just feel you are not like a magical person, but you that you're very grounded in the physical world, and yet even you just feel this tingle, almost like static electricity through your fingers, as if there's like a charge in your fingers for a moment as you touch that door, and then as you push it, that charge just fades away, and the door swings open. Beyond it, darkness, barely touched by the lights of the dim day outside. Sort of damp, cold stone smell wafts out towards you. Silence.
Oh yeah, it says here you push the door to open, and I point just to one of the random lines of text on the wall. It also says it's really dark inside, so do one of you to have a torch? I only have bread and bear traps, and I don't think that's going to be very helpful in a dark cave.
Zell will rummage through her pack and then pull out a torch. She does have one. And
Yeah, I feel like Boglak will fashion one out of some of the rags from the skeleton on a stick, and then add to the collection.
All right, Zell, can I take that torch? I think it's only makes sense that I go first.
I agree. That's
You know about it. And I'll walk into the darkness with my torch held high.
You stride into the dark, leading this small procession, the flame flickering in this much larger dark space beyond, Boglach and Zell following behind. You find yourselves in a huge cavernous hall. This feels much more like a naturally occurring space. Looking around, it's lit very poorly by this torch flickering out a little bit in each direction, but you can see that what walls, as you can see around the space, are also covered in runes, similar runes. It's like this entire place is encased in them, the floor beneath your feet carved with these same overlapping runes. Somewhere in the darkness ahead you hear a sound, like something soft, almost like leaves or fabric or feathers rustling across cold stone, and you hear a voice in the darkness ahead, very low, very weary, says, "Even after all these years of longing for that door to open, I feel no joy, only sorrow for what I have lost." You can see, just glimmering by the faint light of the torch, some very pale figure in the darkness ahead of you.
Sorry, are we disturbing something? Do you want us to close the door over when on our way out?
Oh, no. It's too late for that.
And you see this figure begin to stand up. They rise and rise. You realize this figure is about 9 feet tall. This very tall, narrow form, seemingly almost like in the nude, except for like a small kind of like bundle of rags around their waist. Their skin white as marble. Their long, narrow face, partly framed and partly covered by this tangle of flowing silver hair that hangs down around them. They have this long, what appears to be some kind of white cape draped down from their shoulders that drags over the ground as they begin to walk forward, this supernaturally tall humanoid figure. And as it comes out of the darkness, about 30 feet away from you, it comes to stand just beyond the sort of the ring of the light, and that voice echoes again around the place. They're far away from you, but they sound almost like they're whispering in your ears as they say,
"How far I have fallen, how many years wasted. Yet even for me there is a chance for redemption. A chance to fulfill my mission."
And as that voice echoes, that cloak ruffles behind, and you see 2 white wings unfurl, framing this figure as the angel appears before you. And with that, we will end tonight's session. Join us next week to find out what is going on in the Scottish Highlands with angels and all sorts going on. Thank you guys for a wonderful session. Thank you to Nerdius Maximus for the wonderful music, and to Jessica Bowen for the artwork. You can find links to their pages below this video. Thank you to our wonderful players, and we will see you next week.